Someone said, do you think this guy's on the juice? I'm like, highly likely. It looks preposterous. That motherfucker's on some shit.
Ton of guys in the UFC right now. There's definitely a lot of guys in the UFC doing it using growth hormone.
You know, Marty's out there, the CEO of EPO.
For context, he has a jacked as fuck, pretty fucking saucy looking brother who also fights. And then we have the doctor of pharmacy brother. Obviously another red flag for sure. Frankly, I think it's easier nowadays. You have literal chemists on like fucking Alibaba you can just call and like pay like 30 grand and ask for like a designer compound to be made. Like there's so much shit you can be doing nowadays that it's impossible for USADA and Wyatt to stay 100% on top of it.
Some fucking guy, some dumbass that's on YouTube that swears he can spot people that do, you know, PEDs.
Kamaru Usman's brother Muhammad has been suspended for 2.5 years for failing a UFC anti-doping test, and people are starting to speculate about Kamaru Usman being on steroids as well. So in this video, we are going to explore the Usman brothers' pharmaceutical ties and PED usage, as well as some people that have done some deep dives explaining what they think Kamaru Usman and his brother are on. So stick around to hear the full story. My name is Wyatt. Welcome to Fight Society. Before we get into the video, guys, do me a huge favor, like and subscribe down below. And if you're watching on your phone, swipe left on the comment section and hit that hype button for me as well. But let's get into the video because Kamaru Usman, former welterweight champion Kamaru Usman's brother Muhammad, who is a UFC heavyweight, has been suspended for 2 years and 6 months for testosterone and attempting to deceive the UFC anti-doping policy when confronted. Now, what does this mean for Kamaru and his brother? First, we will start with the UFC's statement on it. And here it says, Combat Sports Anti-Doping CSAD announced today that Muhammad Usman of Coral Springs, Florida, has accepted a 2-year and 6-month period of ineligibility for violations of the UFC anti-doping policy. Usman tested positive for the presence of testosterone. He's doing the serious shit. He's not just doing some like designer drug, or at least not right now. He's doing shit that'll get you banned for a long time, very clearly. A prohibited at all times substance in the class of anabolic agents on the UFC prohibited list. From an out-of-competition sample collected from him on September 8th, 2025. Usman was previously removed from his scheduled bout at Rio de Janeiro, Brazil in October of last year due to the return of the positive test days before the event. And as you can see on Tapology right here, he was supposed to face Walter Walker on October 11th, UFC Rio 2025. And obviously that fight was called off, and now we have an actual reason as to why. Usman ultimately admitted to CSAD to the use of testosterone leading up to the Rio event, as well as previous use of testosterone prohibited at all times peptide BPC 157 earlier in 2025. So he took testosterone and BPC 157, which is very common these days. It's a peptide. I mean, Joe Rogan talks about it all the time. This says, while Usman ultimately took responsibility for the above details, he did not do so in a timely fashion, and not until CSAD confronted him with evidence they had independently collected during a detailed investigation of his use multiple prohibited substances, as well as his attempt to deceive CSAD with a false explanation. So he's not just on the juice, he's on all the juice. And the Usman brothers, this is going to put a very, very close eye on Kamaru Usman, because people have talked about Kamaru Usman being on steroids going back to even before he was champion. And he's going to be suspended until April 9th of 2028. That's so far away. And Muhammad Usman issued a statement right here that says, I want to address my suspension. During my recovery, I made a mistake while trying to heal, and I take full responsibility for it. This time has allowed me to get my health back, focus on my family, and gain a deeper appreciation for life. I have breath in my lungs, life, and I'm truly blessed. I'm taking things one day at a time and staying committed to growth and doing things the right way. I'm grateful to the UFC, Rashad, Ali, and Brian and all my coaches for their continued support. But no fucking explanation really, like just a mistake, but no explanation and no apology for the fact that he was going to go into his fight with Walter Walker very, very obviously and knowingly taking testosterone amongst other PEDs. You can't tell me that his brother is also not doing the same shit. Let's be real. Their dad and brother are pharmacists, which is a huge red flag, which we'll get to in a moment. And then we come back to an old Colby Covington interview where he calls Kamaru Usman the CEO of EPO. And now that allegation, as time goes on, seems more and more possible or even probable.
Bottlenecks. You know, Marty's out there, the CEO of EPO. He doesn't want to fight, man. He wants to fight lightweights. You know, he probably wants a trilogy with Masvidal. You know, last time it was 6 days, now it was 6 weeks.
And there he is talking about it. And we do have quite a bit of evidence and experts that have talked about this. We have right here Derek from More Plates, More Dates. 4 years ago, Kamaru Usman's steroid cycle, what I think he takes. And this is really interesting because I don't know a ton about performance enhancing drugs. I know like kind of how to spot them. I played college baseball. There was a bunch of guys on it. I've never really known how to specifically spot what type of PED guys are on and shit like that. So this right here is Derek from More Plates, More Dates explaining what he thinks Kamaru Usman does. There's a little bit of a rant here about it too.
Who is heavily involved in pharmaceuticals. Definitely notable. While Muhammad is a mixed martial artist. So you're like, huh, you have a dad as a pharmacist, or, you know, obviously he's not actively involved with what he's doing, but you also have a brother who followed in his father's footsteps and is currently a doctor of pharmacy who, like you would imagine, that's like relatively advantageous to understand how drugs work as a professional athlete. In addition, having a brother who is also a professional MMA fighter who looks like this. I don't think a lot of people know that Usman has a brother who also fights who looks like fucking this dude. This guy is a truck stick and a half. So he has the older brother who is a doctor of pharmacy, and then he has this beef stick of a brother who's a fighter as well. So again, like some people might say this is like Natty versus Juiced, or, you know, Juiced versus Natty. But again, not everyone responds the same, and some people have more leeway with shit given the league and the parameters that they're in. So again, if you're fighting in like fucking Pride and they're telling you to juice, obviously you're gonna go full tilt. If you're in the UFC and you have very, very stringent parameters to stay between, you're gonna go a bit more easy. You might be going in the microdose department. I'm not necessarily saying that's what's happening, but I will give what I would bet on shortly. More context. He has a jacked as fuck, pretty fucking saucy looking brother who also fights as a professional fighter. And then we have the doctor of pharmacy brother.
Very interesting stuff presented by Derek from More Plates, More Dates. And it just shows that there has always been talk around the Usman brothers being on steroids. And now Muhammad has been caught. And I think we're just one away now from Kamaru Usman being caught, because Dana White called him the best welterweight of all time. He's probably going to get a title shot against Islam Makhachev next, who's probably on steroids himself. He's tested positive before. And this just shows me how Dana White already has Islam Makhachev as his welterweight champion. Usman was the champion, and Dana White always says he's the best welterweight of all time. And these guys are going to probably fight later this year for the welterweight belt. Dana White glazes the fuck out of both of them. We know these guys are on steroids. Dana White literally does not care. The UFC does not care about people being on steroids. They pose like they do to make it look more legit and make themselves seem like they're in the same level of legitimacy as the mainstream sports, NHL, NFL, MLB, NBA, when we're not. We just got hit with a betting scandal for the second time in 3 years, less than 6 months ago. I did like hour-long deep dives over the course of multiple videos on the gambling scandal. Dana White gambling every single night, addicted to gambling, and the people that are fighting for titles, have titles, and get crowned as the GOAT of their division are very, very clearly on steroids, in my opinion. And here's a little bit more from the same video. And one of his brothers is a fighter who got suspended for testing positive for PEDs. Their dad and one of their other brothers are pharmacists. That's insane. Here we have Derek going a little bit more deep on that.
Another red flag for sure. And when it comes to designer drugs, again, is that something you can't do now? Can you not pull a Balco in current day? Frankly, I think it's easier nowadays. I think you have more access to literature than you've ever had. Back then, you had to dig through fucking libraries to find abandoned designer Frankenstein compounds. and resurrect them based on literature you would dig through the library to find or through archives of certain things it's a lot harder to get your hands on. And nowadays you have the entire depths of the internet. You have literal chemists on like fucking Alibaba you can just call and like pay like 30 grand and ask for like a designer compound to be made.
I had no idea that was a possibility, that it was that deep. And now when he says you can call some sort of chemist to make you some sort of designer PED compound, it makes even more sense to me. The point that I've been making for years now, because I was involved with baseball and then now I'm involved with MMA, both of those sports have been tainted pretty bad with PED and scandals and positive tests among big stars, things like that. Essentially, what I've said, even going back to before I even followed MMA and I was really just into baseball, was the guys that get caught are the guys that are still taking whatever the thing is that the drug testing agency knows about right now. The people that don't get caught are the ones that have the money and the resources to be on the next thing. Like the drug testing agency is always 1 or 2 phases of new drugs behind. So that means high paid baseball players, high paid NBA players, highly paid UFC fighters like the champions, for example, not random prelim guys, but the champions like Kamaru Usman can afford to pay 30, 40, 50 grand to get some drug made that they won't get caught for. But then their brother, like Muhammad Usman, who's fighting on the prelims, has never really had a ton of UFC success. Like he's never been ranked in a very shallow heavyweight division. Just being honest about his UFC career to this point, isn't able to afford the compounds 30, 40, 50K. That's probably 2 fights for him. So he has to take run-of-the-mill testosterone that he tests positive for, or BPC 157. Whereas somebody like Kamaru Usman making millions of dollars per fight as a UFC champ, whether it be by paying somebody from another country to make this designer compound, or one of his brothers helping him pass tests in that sort of way. Honestly, I think it has to do more with the money and resources because yes, it's suspicious that his family is involved in this, you know, steroids and fraud and pharmacy. We'll get to his dad in a moment because his dad is in jail or was in jail for years because of medical fraud. These type of people being around him definitely points to potential steroid use, but you would think that if him and his brother were both getting it from, let's say, the other brother that's a chemist or a pharmacist, that neither of them would get caught, not just one of them on testosterone. So that's what makes me think Kamaru Usman, has the money and resources to get some sort of compound that doesn't exist except for to him.
There's so much shit you can be doing nowadays that it's impossible for USADA and WADA to stay 100% on top of it. They can get as close as they can and get very, very, stay on track with shit as it pops up. But certain things they don't even know exist.
They do their best, but they're not 100% accurate. There's some things that USADA doesn't know exist. That's exactly what I was trying to say before, is because nobody knows that it exists except for the athlete that paid for it and the person that created the compound for them. And of course, we can't forget the Ali Abdelaziz connection because Kamaru Usman is managed by Ali Abdelaziz. Now, who else does Ali manage? Now, Ali manages Usman, Kayla Harrison, Justin Gaethje, a lot of people, but mostly known for being the manager of the Dagestanis and Team Khabib. We have Khabib on the roster right here. We have Islam Makhachev on the roster right here. Rustam Kovalov, and even more people that are on Ali Abdelaziz's roster, such as Movlid Kobayalev, who got suspended and had his title and bonus revoked from the PFL for testing positive for EPO. I just made a video about this about a week and a half ago. I'll link it down below if you guys want more information on Team Khabib's rampant drug use in the sport. It seems like what's really happening here is money, a willingness to cheat, and a connection to the most corrupt and dirty manager in the sport that represents all types of well-known fighters, has been next to the president, next to Dana White, of course, represents Gaethje and Cejudo, also has ties to Ramzan Kadyrov, the Russian dictator that may or may not be dead based on the things I've been reading the last few days. So don't forget that everything sketchy in MMA ties back to this man, Ali Abdelaziz. I'll link both videos down below. One about Team Khabib's drug use that I posted recently, and I'll also tag my deep dive on just who Ali Abdelaziz is, keeping in mind that he was also arrested for selling and transporting steroids amongst other drugs, if I remember correctly. He is also the manager to all of these Dagestanis that get caught using steroids. He's also Kamaru Usman's manager and Muhammad Usman's manager. So the dirtiest manager is also tied to all of the guys failing drug tests as well. And Kamaru Usman having a tie to all of these guys and Ali definitely makes it seem like him and his brother are on the juice as well. Quick break. If you're loving this video and you want more from Fight Society, click that join button down below to become a channel member today, where you'll get access to members only live streams, behind the scenes vlogs, and all the unfiltered stuff that we don't post to the main channel. Back to the video. And later in this More Plates, More Dates video, we get to Derek explaining what he thinks Kamaru Usman is on.
So I bet there's a ton of fucking guys in the UFC right now. There's definitely a lot of guys in the UFC doing it, as well as sports like the NBA and other sports using growth hormone, because it is ultimately like why is it that athletes are suddenly able to extend their careers into their 40s and still maintain high performance, or more notably, avoid injury for as long as possible, avoid complete degradation of their infrastructure?
Now this starts to play into Nate Diaz's claim from years and years ago that everyone's on steroids. And I've heard some of the fighters that I know say that basically everybody is taking something. I've heard fighters say that 75% of guys are on a PED. I'm starting to believe more and more. And do I really care? I mean, not really. If they, like, I honestly think that if they're taking things that help them recover more, they should probably be able to take it. It's the things that give you an unfair advantage. So if they're going to be taking this stuff, just let them all do it. I'm not saying let these guys take testosterone, but things like BPC 157 and other things that they could take to recover faster, they should, but it's a matter of making it legal or not, because if you have some guys taking it and other guys aren't, it's an unfair advantage. But if everyone is allowed to take these quote unquote recovery drugs, sorry if I'm not being super specific about it, I don't know that much about these things. I know that they exist, and I know how some guys look like they're on steroids like Usman, but I'm not too much into the nuts and bolts of what each of these drugs does, to be completely honest with you. But it does seem highly likely and believable that a high percentage of the UFC and professional sports all around are on steroids. The same thing goes for Kamaru Usman, because his brother tested positive and he just has a lot more money and resources.
One of the main things is human growth hormone. And that is something that, again, like, I think should be, like, it's not that performance enhancing necessarily. Like, yeah, you get some like satellite cell proliferation, you can get some additional myonuclear donation. There are certain things that are going to be helpful from a muscle building aspect for sure, but mainly it's like a proactive like injury protection mechanism essentially, or something that's going to expedite recovery. And I think frankly should be like allowed, you know, like why are you subjecting guys to fuck themselves up in fights, fuck themselves up in sports, get like wrecked on a football field, and then you like want to prevent them from having access to shit that is going to help them recover. Like even peptides that are not banned are being reclassified as like biologics now, and they're getting harder to access.
Such as BPC 157 that Muhammad Usman tested positive for. And this right here, we have another creator named M. Baidoon, or Baidoon, explaining why he thinks Kamaru Usman is on steroids as well.
Using steroids, Kamaru Usman, the ex-UFC champion. Let's look at this picture. There are so many scars around his abs and around his chest. Those are usually signs for using steroids. He tried to justify this by saying that's a childhood scar. However, if you look at this picture, you could see acne on his shoulders and on his jaw. And that's usually a sign for using steroids, because we have receptors for steroids in our shoulders. In my humble view, Kamaru Usman is not natural and he's using steroids.
So there's what somebody else has to say. And we look into the allegation of being related to a medical fraudster. You have right here, Usman was born in Auchi, Nigeria. His father was a major in the Nigerian army and his mother was a teacher. Usman had a modest upbringing. Usman's father, Muhammad Nasiru Usman, who became a pharmacist in the United States, brought his family into the country when Usman was 8 years old, immigrating to Dallas, Texas. He has two brothers, Kashetu and Muhammad, the later of whom is a mixed martial artist and tough winner. Now, we look at Muhammad Nasiru Usman. Right here, we have from the U.S. District Attorney's Office, and this is from the FBI archives, guys. This says, from the Dallas Division, defendants who worked at a local ambulance company sentenced for their roles in healthcare fraud scheme. Ambulance company owner sentenced to 15 years in federal prison for fraudulently billing the government to transfer patients to scheduled dialysis appointment. The operations director / upper level supervisor of a local ambulance company, Sean Uten, 32, of Aubrey, Texas, was sentenced this afternoon by U.S. District Judge Jorge A. Solis to 41 months in federal prison and ordered to pay approximately $360K in restitution for his role in a healthcare fraud scheme announced by U.S. Attorney General, blah, blah, blah. But the next one right here, the lead defendant in the case, Muhammad Usman, 50, of Arlington, Texas, who is the owner and operator of Royal Ambulance Service and First Choice EMS Incorporated, was sentenced in October 2010 to 15 years in federal prison for his role in the scheme. Usman was convicted at trial in May 2010 on all 14 counts of superseding indictment, charging various offenses including healthcare fraud and money laundering related to the healthcare fraud scheme that he ran. Now, Kamaru Usman responds to this a little bit, and he actually talks specifically about the more plates, more dates video, calling the guy an idiot, not realizing that it's one of Joe's friends.
I get it all the time now.
Of course.
Like people accuse me all the time, and I haven't really told the story, but so one day I saw like people kept tagging me in this video, and there was some fucking guy, some dumbass that's on YouTube that swears he can spot people that do, PEDs.
Oh, it's probably more plates, more dates.
Maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Derek. He's been on the
fucking
podcast before.
Yeah.
It's funny that Kamaru Usman doesn't even realize that it's like one of Joe's friends, but he starts telling the story. He talks about like moles on his stomach or some shit.
I'm like, yeah, well, how can I get rid of them? I try to scratch them and they bleed, and he's like, yeah, you don't want to do that. What we could do is I can burn them off. And I'm like, okay, fuck it, let's do it. Because, hey, spring break was going to come up. Like, I started, I'm lifting now. I got a body now.
Right.
I'm a junior, and I've looked jacked. So I'm like, spring break is coming. I want to look jacked. I want to look good. So I don't get walking around with those. Fuck no. So he's like, all right, I can burn them off. So he burns them off with, I think, nitrogen.
And then he gets to it a little bit more, talking about how it's genetic. So he has like all these explanations, like every single point he has a response to. It's interesting.
So then this fucking guy's like, oh, he's doing PEDs. Look, he's got the marks on his stomach. And it hurt my feelings. I'm like, I'm like one of those guys who
the sympathy play too. It hurt my feelings.
I don't even think about PEDs because my work,
I don't even think about them.
I don't care. I probably have dealt with someone that was cheating or competed against someone that was cheating. But my work will far exceed all of that. And so when I see idiots online or saying, oh, yeah, I know for a fact he's doing PD, I'm like, have you ever been to fucking Africa? Have you been to Africa? There's a lot of Francis Ngannou's walking around. There's a lot of guys like me just walking around. And because of the work and because of the way that I fight, they're like, oh, no, he's definitely got to be doing something
because of his work and the way he fights. It has nothing to do with the very clear physical evidence on his body of using steroids. It's wild.
And explain why you are the way you are, why your performance exceeds what their mind is mentally capable of.
There's a photo of you where on top of the cage after one of the victories.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like this, like,
yeah.
It looks preposterous. Like, if I didn't know any better, I'd be like, that motherfucker's on some shit.
Because he is, in my opinion, and Rogan has a habit of glazing and overlooking things of the fighters that he likes do. Talking about John Jones. He invented a back kick at 37 years old and all these different things about he didn't even train and he never used steroids. It's gas station dick pills or whatever the hell it was. And now here with Kamaru Usman falling for the same thing. Like all markers are throwing up red flags in I almost said Joe Biden because he's kind of got dementia these days, but Joe Rogan, not Joe Biden, is sitting there getting duped. He's like, oh, wow, all these red flags. This guy seems like he's on steroids to me, but he's on my podcast and I like him, so he's definitely not.
It's
genetics are real, man.
Oh, it
genetics are
definitely
real. This is not everybody did not get the same deck of cards.
And yes, genetics are real and not everyone is dealt the same hand, but his brother tested positive for steroids and he's been accused by experts through deep, deep dives that he is on steroids as well. So you can't just chalk everything up to genetics, in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that one.
yeah.
Look at that one. Come on, son.
Yeah, come on. Like, let me move myself. He's so clearly on steroids. This is unreal.
If I saw that shit, I'd be like, if someone said, "Do you think this guy's on the juice?" I'm like, highly likely.
Yeah, adrenaline.
You see how quick Usman is to defend it? Like, he doesn't go, yeah, wow, my physique is crazy, I guess. Yeah. He's like, it's adrenaline and this and that. He immediately starts defending, and Joe wasn't even trying to accuse him in the moment.
The Masvidal fight.
Oh man.
And then they just change, oh yeah, it was the Masvidal fight, whatever. And don't forget, guys, people like Kamaru Usman, people like Muhammad Usman, and all the other people that test positive, John Jones, they exist in a sport and succeed in a sport and make a lot of money in a sport that is the same sport that Nick Diaz got suspended for 5 years for fucking weed, dude. Not for fucking weed, but for weed, for fucking dumb shit like weed. Crazy that he got a 5-year ban. Essentially never returned. I know he came back for one fight against Robbie Lawler, and now he's basically on a total like career downward spiral. There's all this stuff about him and his brother not getting along. I guess he married his ex-girlfriend. We'll talk about that in a separate video. But we are in a world where people like Muhammad Usman and people like Kamaru Usman are able to have a lengthy, fruitful career, more Kamaru than Muhammad, doing these type of drugs. In my opinion, I'm 100% convinced, in my opinion, that they are on these drugs. When somebody like Nick Diaz, his livelihood taken away, his legacy ruined, and his career taken away. So let me know your thoughts down below. What do you guys think? Are both Usman brothers on steroids? Let me know your thoughts down below, and I'll see you next time. Do you want more from Fight Society? Like and subscribe below this video, and click the join button to become a channel member today to get access to behind the scenes vlogs and members only live streams.